Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and we've got an interview today with BJA member Ballaboy2234. But before we get into the interview, I kind of want to share a little bit about what you are going to hear in it. And there could be a little bit of a formula to interviews with APs. It's like they discover advantage play, they train, they go out there and start grinding, they start making money, and then they share some fun stories, some back-offs, some life lessons, whatever it is. But this one's going to be a little bit different. Ballaboy did a lot of those things. He actually did all of those things. He found out about it, he trained, he learned it, he was making money. And then through some kind of decisions or through some variables that he wasn't controlling, he started losing money and, nearly gave up. And the story does have a happy ending, and I don't want to give it all away, but I just want you to say, you know what? We can learn from other people's success, but we can also learn from the mistakes other people make. And Ballaboy was willing to share both his successes and some mistakes that led to him nearly giving up on advantage play. And one other thing that I'll share real quickly is I just filmed a kind of 10-minute video. It's basically just a walkthrough of this graph that a friend showed me about 5 years ago. And this graph has on the vertical axis, it's risk, low risk versus high risk. And on the horizontal axis, it's opportunity, low opportunity, high opportunity. And I don't want to try to explain it all through podcast, but basically on this graph, you're saying, with my opportunities, am I managing these things? Am I going after opportunities that have high opportunity and low risk, or at least high opportunity, high risk, or low risk? Basically, Ballaboy made some decisions based on what was available to him that resulted in some kind of low reward, high risk advantage play. And once that was figured out, it unlocked a lot. So that video, I'm going to put it in our members area at Blackjack Apprenticeship. Maybe I'll put it publicly. We'll put a link below in the podcast show notes. But to find all sorts of awesome stuff, from videos to training software, betting software, members forum, casino database, members only podcast, that's all in the members area. But just want to let you know about that video walkthrough that I just did of the opportunity risk graph. So without any further ado, here is my interview with Ballaboy2234, the one and only Ballaboy. Hey guys, this is Colin from Blackjack Apprenticeship, and I'm joined with BJA member and card counter Ballaboy2234. How you doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So let's get right into your story. Can you share with us kind of how you got interested in card counting and all that stuff?
How I got interested in card counting. It's an interesting story. So I've always been a gambler, kind of throughout my life. Even when I was in college, we would, when we get our financial aid checks, I hate to say this, but when we get our financial aid checks, go to the casino and basically just kind of blow it all there just because it was fun and it was kind of free money at the time. So we get our financial aid checks and we go and just have a ball. And I always used to like blackjack because I felt like it was really I felt like I could actually control what was going on, on a roulette table or something like that. You just pick a number and whatever happens. But with blackjack, it's like, okay, well, I know the next card coming or this and that, whatever. So, I always used to gamble. And what really got me into card counting, one trip, I really enjoy going to Las Vegas, and I would gamble in Las Vegas. So one trip, I'd gone to Las Vegas, and we were out partying and stuff, and kind of was a wild night. And I ended up winning like $6,000 or $7,000. Just randomly, and I didn't even bet high money or anything like that. I just kind of went on the winning streak and was winning. So then the next day I was like, should I kind of save this money or do this? And I was kind of like, it's free money at this point. Let me just spend $1,000. If I lose it, then I'll stop. Sure enough, I ended up losing it all. So when I had gotten back,
all 6,000 or 7,000, or the 1,000?
All 6,000 or 7,000. Yeah. So when I got back home, I was really upset. I was like, how did I let myself do that? And I was like, I wonder, is there a way to count cards? And I ended up looking it up, learn how to count cards. And BJA popped up. So then, I was debating going back and forth and trying to get a membership. And I talked to you, and one of the things that had really sold me was, I think it was like a 30-day money back guarantee. So I was like, okay, I'll just sign up for the membership. And 30 days later, I'll just cancel it, get my money back. I'll know how to count cards. I can go back and get all my money back. But obviously, that didn't happen. I joined, started learning something, realized there was a ton of stuff to do. So I just stuck with the membership, and that's how I got into card counting.
So, how much do you think you lost in your career as a gambler? I don't know if you call it career, but in your time.
I know, yeah, I'd hate to call it a career. I never went in and like blew tons and tons and tons of money or anything like that. I was the kind of gambler where it was like, okay, I'd go in, I'd have $500, be like, don't worry about losing it. Go in, have a good time, whatever. But generally speaking, end up losing the money. So it's not like I was out there with five, six, $7,000 all the time. But I mean, I lost a good amount of money just from, I don't know, let's say $10,000 in total,
Wow.
probably. Yeah.
Through college and after college?
Yeah, through college and after college. So probably, let's say when I was 21 to, let's say, 28, 27, 28. Yeah, I probably lost about $10,000 because that stuff adds up, $200
Yeah.
here, $500 here, $300 there. It just adds up, and you're always trying to do it. So yeah.
And that's how those beautiful casinos are built is,
Exactly, right.
yeah.
The cool thing, I mean, I remember I always used to, we'd always try to get comps and that kind of stuff. So sometimes, we'd go and just gamble just to get free drinks or just to do this, just to do that. So we thought there was some strategy to it, but we were spending so much. Yeah. No.
So yeah, definitely don't recommend people, college students listening to this, using your financial aid to go gamble. But I'm
Yes,
sure
I
it
heard that.
happened. I'm sure you're not the only one who's done that. So you decided to, actually learn how to play. You got the membership or whatever. You trained. What did you have a goal at that point? Was it to win back that 6 or 7,000?
Honestly, yeah, that's all my goal was. I was just like, I just want to go and get my, well, yeah, there was two casinos. So that 6 or 7 thousand, that was at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas. Um,
Mhm.
and there was another spot out in California where I was going to college where they would always take our money. So my goal was to get that $6 or $7,000 back and get all the money that I lost in college from our scholarship money and that kind of stuff. So that was just my goal. And really,
And
it was really just kind of really to learn how to do it. But yeah, I would say that was really all my goal was. It wasn't anything serious.
and did you think that once you got that money back, you'd, hang up your gambling ways or be
Oh,
done?
definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Definitely. Yeah. I had no plan on doing this long term or, yeah, not at all.
So tell us a little bit more about what your training was like. Obviously, you probably watched videos and flipped over a deck of cards and all that stuff, but can you go into any more
Yeah.
detail?
So, right around when I signed up for my membership for BJA, I had another buddy who he had just graduated college, and I was like, "Hey, I got this idea. Would you be interested in doing it, or at least training with me?" So he was like, "Sure, let's do it." So me and him, I had started a company, a youth sports organization, and he worked for me. So what we find is that while we'd be working, partway through, he'd be like, "Hey, let's stop and let's count down a deck of cards." So we'd start counting down a deck of cards together. The next thing that's 5 or 10 minute sessions turn into 30-hour-long sessions where it's just like we're racing each other so you can count down a deck of cards fastest. Just printing out the worksheets and filling those out. So we were doing it quite often. I'd say every day. Like it went from, like I said, 5 minutes every day to next thing you know, we're doing it for an hour or two every day, just kind of having fun. So
Yeah.
doing him really helped with regards to keeping it fun and keeping it entertaining for me. And then also, I'm a very, 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 very competitive person, so
Hmm.
it made it competitive. We were kind of competing against each other who could move fast, make sure we did it correctly, and all that kind of stuff. So that was really my training sessions.
Yeah, that's actually, I really like that. If you have someone to train with, one, you have accountability. Two, you've got that kind of competitive nature. I know we've had Smurf AP and BCD on the podcast. They train together. I know we've had other people too, but I didn't really have that. I got trained by someone or dealt to once by someone, but didn't really have a training partner. But I could see just how helpful that would be on so many levels.
Yeah, and it's like you said too, the accountability, because if we're both there and we go down or we're counting and all that kind of stuff, and somebody else, oh, what number were you at? Or not even when it's counting down a deck of cards, but if we're just doing something, you're being able to hold somebody accountable, because if it's in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I was only off by one, or I was only off by two. But then when you're training with somebody else, it's like, oh man, you were off by two. You know what I mean? So now it's
Yeah.
just that you can't just kind of breeze through the fact that you messed up for anything.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. I mean, you could come up with a whole list of competitive drills, from counting down a deck to filling out a basic strategy chart to writing out the deviations, or
Oh
playing and
yeah,
shoot perfectly, all that stuff.
yeah, and we kind of made up some of our own things too, because this was before the revamp of the website, where you could do a whole
Mhm.
test out. I think at the time you really only had like basic strategy, and I think like regular like kind of count down the deck or something like that. At the time, it was before you
Mhm.
had everything that you have on the website now. So we kind of made up some games within each other. Like we have to tell each other like when to stop, and like we recount down and then make sure, oh, we got the same number. And then if one of us was off, you go and see who was off and stuff. So we kind of made up our own games. We
Yeah.
sometimes deal to the other one, you know what I mean? And just like, all right, I'm going to be a really bad dealer. I'm going to do this. Now see what mistakes I'm making as a dealer. You know what I mean? So we just kind of really had fun with it at the time.
That's awesome. Even if you didn't have someone in like that uh personally to train with, you could probably find someone in the forum that is also starting out and say like, hey, you want to be my training whatever accountability buddy,
Yeah,
and say who can like test out first, or who can master the basic strategy drill first, or whatever. I'll bet you that would accelerate someone's training, just having the accountability and the competitive
definitely.
and
Yeah, and like I
um
said, I'm super competitive, so that helped me personally. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been playing Madden 21 with my son, my 13-year-old
Ooh,
son,
great game,
and
great game.
I could just whoop him every time when we got the game. And then it was like he could beat me one out of every 4 or 5 games, and now I can't beat him. And it's driving me crazy.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
that,
I'm searching YouTube for, how to pass rush better or whatever, because I don't, my 13-year-old just whoops me in this video game every time. So, yeah, that competitive drive can definitely be a motivator.
that's funny.
Um, so you trained, did your friend stick with it, or did they not?
Funny story. He actually did stick with it, and when we first, there was like a really, really, really small casino, like right in my hometown. So me and him went there, and we just started back counting tables. Once we had really felt that we were, good enough to start playing, we went to the casino just to back count. We still didn't really want to waste any money at this point. Um, but we went back counted, and once he was like, "Man, I'm doing really good job at back counting. Like I feel like I could do this." I was like, "Hey, well, let's go ahead and let's do it together." So I started with about a $2,000 bankroll, and I think he had either like $1,000 or $2,000 also. And we were playing, and I think his first losing session that he had was about let's say $300, maybe $400, and that was it for him. That was the last day he played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's too bad. You guys could have combined. I mean, if you trusted him and all that stuff, you guys could have combined bankrolls and lowered risk and had that kind of counterbalance each other with variance.
And I think this was even before I had purchased CDCX. Also, I think we
Oh
had
yeah.
yes, we were kind of just doing our own kind of bet spread. I think you had kind of
Uh-huh.
helped me with something, at one point, but I don't know if he really had his bet spread or anything like that. I think he's kind of
Oh
scoring
yeah.
off of me, but yeah, he ended up having a pretty significant loss for his bankroll size, and yeah, I haven't seen him since.
Oh man.
With
Yeah.
regards to counting, we still hang out every now and then.
Cool. Yeah, we didn't have our pro betting software back then, and so CVCX was really the only option. And if you didn't have, the software or Windows-based computer to do it, I think there are a lot of card counters that get to that point. They train themselves a bit, and then they just kind of make up a bet spread.
Yeah,
And usually it's over betting. The other option is it's like a 1-4 or 1-5 bet spread. It's not enough to even be positive EV. So I think that's a really, really common, rookie mistake. Just not being as scientific with the bet spread as you are with everything else, but you got to have it all. And I remember you reaching out to me about bet spread, and I helped you put something together. And I think, I didn't hear from you for a bit, but you put in a bunch of hours and kind of grew that thing, right?
man. Okay, so when I first started card counting, I was determined after probably about, I don't know, 30 or 40 hours, I was like, man, I'm going to stop doing my company. I'm going to bring on like another 4 or 5 people. I'm going to be a millionaire and this and that. I had a completely false sense of reality when it came to counting cards when I first started. Because I had taken my $2,000 bankroll up to like, I want to say it was close to about $30,000
Uh-huh.
from 2000. But not everything I was doing was just counting cards. I had met somebody at the boot camp that I had gone to, and they told me about the Phoenix. And I listened to his podcast, and I reached out to him. And the casino that he made all that money at was close to my house. So I went over there and I started playing that side bet game. So not all the money, not all of my card counting hours in the very beginning was strictly just blackjack. It was a lot of the red flex.
Yeah.
Um,
So for those who don't know, we have a podcast with the Phoenix who beat Red Flex, which is a side bet. He beat it for like over $300,000, which I'm actually surprised you were able to get any time in at it after him. But
yeah.
it went okay for you.
It I lasted, let's say 2, maybe 3 months,
Oh
playing
wow.
probably about once a week
Uh huh.
for probably about 4 hours, 3 4 hour
Yeah.
sessions. And like I said, I was just getting started too, so I wasn't going all out on my red flex bets. I was doing really small red flex bets, but just the EV on that game is really high. So I was still just making money. And then I slowly kind of started ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. And mind you, I also was playing blackjack at other places too. And I
Hmm.
just started off just winning. And with Red Flex, I was just playing. But I didn't last anywhere near as long as he did. And he kind of
Yeah.
told me that once I talked to him. He's like, it's kind of burnt out already.
Yeah.
So I mean, this was even before like my first back off and stuff. So I was really trying to make sure nothing happened. But yeah,
So you're thinking I'm going to get 5 other people under me and
oh
turn this
yeah,
into a multi-million-dollar pyramid scheme. What?
literally yes, yep. Just do that. Pay them out and just make tons and tons of money. I was like, if I can take $2,000 into $25,000, $30,000, this is too easy.
Yeah, turn 30,000 into 30 million, just like that.
Exactly right. So, but
So
little did I
what?
know what was in store.
Yeah, and you're still running your business this whole time, right?
Yeah, definitely. I was running my business. Like I said, I do youth sports. So, and this is also before I was married and had a kid. So my schedule was very flexible. I had stuff during the week, or had classes during the week, twice during the week at like from like 5 to 8 p.m. and then on weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. So during the week, for the most part, I didn't have too much going on, so I was able to really travel and stuff. So yeah, I was running my business and doing blackjack part time. And when I first started, I wasn't doing very many hours, but once I kind of ramped up, I was playing blackjack 3 days a week, and doing the business as well.
And how did you balance those things? Did you feel like either suffered because of the other, or did you feel like you could do both at a high level?
Um, I Because of the hours of my company, I could do both, run both very well. However, what I found once I really started playing and traveling and doing road trips, my other side of the business did suffer slightly, not a ton, but it did suffer a little bit because I just kind of started getting lazy.
Uh-huh.
At first, I used to, when I'm on road trips, I go play, then I come back, I'll do an hour of my business, and then I'll make some phone calls, I'll make sure marketing's going correctly and all of that. But, once you are on your second day of your blackjack trip, and then you're tired, you've been at a table for a long time, you're like, man, I'm just going to skip that hour. So, skipping
Hmm.
that one day kind of led to skipping the next day, and then, returning phone calls a little bit later and emails a little bit later versus just instantly. So it did suffer a little bit. And I had to consciously force myself to, hey, you need to get on a schedule.
Uh-huh.
When you're doing things, get on a schedule. If it's blackjack time, it's blackjack time. Business time is business time. But don't kind of intermix the two. Because there would be times I'd be at a blackjack table and I'd get a phone call coming in, and I try to always answer my phone because it might be a new
Hmm.
client, somebody looking for training or something. So I'm counting, then my phone goes off and it's a number that I don't know. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna step away from the table. I take the phone call, and then now I don't uh, have the count or anything like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of just tell myself, hey, when I'm here, don't do business, but when I'm doing business, don't do blackjack either.
Yeah. And there's a certain level of keeping your business going that you just can't let suffer, even on a blackjack trip. You got to make that hour or whatever it is.
100%
Uh,
agree. 100%. If an emergency happens, you have to stop
yeah.
and address it.
So you're playing blackjack. I'm assuming you had your bet spread stuff because I remember you came to a boot camp and your game was good, and you got your betting all figured out by then. I'm assuming,
Yes,
um,
yes.
and it was working. And then kind of where things go from there.
Man, so things were going really good. I'd be on our sports trips, and then during the day, I'd go to I'd have our tournament stuff we're playing in. At night, I go to a casino, and just things were going well, man. Winning the good amount of money, everything was good. Right around the time I decided to uh, up my bet spread,
Hmm.
and right around the time when my Red Flex casino um, backed me off, I went on a really, really, really bad losing streak.
Yeah.
Um, And when I say bad, it was bad. But in the back of my mind, um, I was always thinking, okay, well, it's not going to stay like this forever because I'd never really suffered a losing streak,
Hmm.
and um, I never suffered a losing streak, and I had also bumped my bet spread up. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just not used to losing this much because I upped my bet spread.
Hmm.
So this is probably about 40, 50 hours into card counting and stuff for me, maybe a little bit more. So, I really was still kind of trying to figure things out. I hadn't had very many back offs. Um, just I was still figuring things out, definitely.
So, well, I mean, you must have had more hours than that. I think than 40 or 50, because if you include all the kind of training, like pre-boot camp time.
Oh yeah. I was talking about just table hours. I would say.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, even including before the boot camp, all that, to grow up from 2 to 30K, um, you know, you're winning like crazy, and then you decide to increase your betting. How like did you have to decrease your bet spread from the losing
Oh,
streak?
okay. So I should have. I really should have, but I had a good amount of money I could have put into blackjack. I just started
Yeah.
with $2,000 just because I was like, okay, let me just kind of figure some things out. But I was losing a lot, and I should have redone my bet spread. But I had more money I could throw into it, so I had a
Yeah.
replenishing bankroll. You know what I mean? I had that $30,000. I had lost basically all of that. And
Okay.
I was like, all right, well, I'll just put some more money into it because I'm going to start winning like I did before. And I
Yeah.
had put
Uh-huh.
more into it and stuff, and just kept losing and kept losing and kept losing. And
A-
yeah,
And so is this around the time I remember you posted on the forum that you were done? It just wasn't working for you.
yes,
Is it? And I remember, reading that and being like, "Oh no, what's been happening?" Because I mean, I'd met with you, I'd trained you at the boot camp. We met up in Seattle, and it's just like, dang, what's going on? And I even talked to Joe748 because he saw the forum post, and he's like, wonder what's happening. And we got on the phone with you, or at least I did, and I remember getting on the phone with Joe and talking with him about your situation, and what you didn't give up. What happened? What did you learn from that experience, or what did you correct, or where'd it go from there?
So what I found was that, first off, I had just started dealing with some negative variance first off, but the real reason I don't think I gave up was, I mean, at people in the forum, talking to you, talking to Jevin, so 748. I'd spoken with David as well.
Hmm.
You guys just had really positive words of encouragement. And at the end of the day, the competitiveness, I want to say, kept me going, because in the
Hmm.
back of my mind, I was always thinking like, Colin's not smarter than I am. Joe's not smarter than I am. David's not. How come they can do it and
Yeah.
I can't do it? And I
Yep.
was just determined to figure out what I was doing wrong. Because I was like, there's just no way, and maybe it's just me, just kind of the kind of mindset that I have. But I was like, there's no way that they're just so much more intellectually smart than I am. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? It's like I've put in the work, I've done the training. They've said, I'm doing good and all this kind of stuff. My game is good. So what am I doing wrong? And I think it was, I just put in a good amount of time, and I was like, I want to stick through it and make sure, or say that I've done it, in other
Yeah.
words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there were a few things, if I remember correctly, there were a few things that we helped maybe point out that could have been part of, not digging out of that losing streak. Like the place you'd put a lot of hours in, like the deck penetration was not very good. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. There was a spot I had found, and I really liked it because it had surrender, and it was a California card house, so I was getting absolutely no heat.
Hmm.
Everybody, I had made friends with most all the dealers and the pit bosses and everything there, uh, and they weren't kicking me out for anything, and it had surrender. So I think when I first started, the deck penetration was better, and over time, it got significantly worse. And
Hmm.
through me just kind of being lackadaisical, not paying attention, not really understanding deck estimation at the time, um, I just kept staying there and kept grinding it out. And I was like, oh, well, don't worry. Eventually, it's going to come back. Eventually, it's going to come back.
Hmm.
So um, I what it ended up being was, there was a couple tweaks in my game that wasn't perfect that I did need to correct, but I was just playing basically a break even game. So once
Yes.
I had won all of that money, then I had lost a lot of money. Then I found this casino that had surrender. Deck penetration wasn't great, but I just thought, hey, surrender is helping me out so much, and I played there for so many hours. And I basically, if you just look at my graph, it's just staggering back and forth, just basically staying at the same place for like 400 hours, it looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was
And
crazy.
so it's kind of like the frog in the pot,
Yeah.
You started out there and the deck penetration was okay, not good, but not, it is playable. But then maybe their countermeasure was to move that card back just a little bit, and you're thinking, well, I'm still playing the same game. It's just they shuffle a little bit sooner. But that difference over time, like you said, you're playing a break even game, and you can't overcome a break even game. It's not uh, enough hours you can put in, other than just variance, in which case you're
Yeah.
just gambling. And so I remember that was the big thing. There was also maybe you'd gotten comfortable playing some more crowded tables, which is just going to add even more. I mean, as far as the deck penetration, what people need to understand is it there are two things. One is it can decrease the EV to the point where it's not a beatable game, or it's just really not even worth your time if it is positive EV, but the other is it makes the long run longer. Um, and so even let's say it was negligible positive EV, you're making it harder for yourself to overcome, variance by making the long run even longer. And so, yeah, those things going against you. And then if you're playing more crowded tables, then your rounds per hour drops. And now that long run has just gotten significantly even longer. Anything else you want to add to that?
No, I mean what you said hit the nail on the head. And I knew how to count cards, but I didn't really know how to count cards. You know what I mean? I knew just the okay, there's true counts, there's basic
Yeah.
strategies of running counts, but I didn't really understand the importance of, hey, if I get another quarter of a deck, that's gonna make me more money. Hey,
Hmm.
if I don't sit this table, might be positive, um, but it's only staying at 2 count 1s, 2 count 2s, and it's a completely full table. And I'm barely getting any rounds per hour. And instead of just trying to save my spot because it's a busy casino, go home, come back when it's not busy. You know what I mean? Trying to really figure out casinos and uh, figuring out which table is best. You know what I mean? I remember
Hmm.
there was one point when I would walk into a casino and the first table that I saw that was 3 to 2, and not 6 to 5 or a CSM, I'd stop and I'd just start playing. Versus
Yep.
like, hey, survey the entire casino. You know what I mean? See if there's any double decks. See if there's any single decks. See who's cutting what. So once I went from my losing streak and started winning, I really had to tighten all of that up about my game.
Hmm. Yeah, and these are things that we definitely cover in the boot camp. But it, like anything, if you kind of get lackadaisical about it, or if you get comfortable, or if you think, hey, my technical skills of basic strategy, counting, deviation, true count conversion, if those are good, you can think that's all I need, rather than really, like you said, like mastering the game is just the first step. Then really knowing how to make it profitable, because you could master all those technical aspects and not play a winning game, whether it's through your bet spread or whether it's through game selection or any number of things. And so you had mastered the technical aspects but had overlooked everything that makes a game profitable. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I felt like I was also being a little bit too social when I
Hmm.
was at casinos. I'd be there. I'm a social butterfly. So if people sit down at the table,
Hmm.
I'll kind of talk to them and stuff. And I had gotten really good at talking to people um, and keeping count and all of that. But what I found was I just wasn't focused on what I needed to be focused on. I'd stay at
Hmm.
tables too long. I'd maybe bounce out, and instead of going to a table that's completely empty with a whole new deck, I might stay and talk to the person that I'm sitting at the table with, just because I'm trying to be social. So yeah, I had to clean up a lot of that stuff.
Okay, so where we're at so far is you got into card counting. You had a history of gambling, which you didn't gamble as a card counter, but maybe some of those social tendencies were in play. But you mastered the technical skills. You put in the time, but you kind of you went on a losing streak, and maybe just to try to get the hours in, you decided to play a game that between the deck penetration, maybe the more crowded tables, letting a few parts of your game, just some little things in your game slide, you basically are playing a break-even game. And you reach this point where you're like, I'm done. And me and a few of the pros knew you enough to say, well, that's like a huge bummer. And the reason I appreciate you bringing this up is you're not the only one that has gone down this route. I know there are other BJA members that have had similar situations. And honestly, I've shared before, I think there's a group of people that were on the church team that um, those same things happened, where there's this kind of optimism about deck penetration or playing conditions, combined with getting comfortable, focusing too much on the social aspect of the casino, the things that might help your longevity, but at the cost of generating, maximum EV in the casinos. And this group of people on the church team, I look at their career results, and they broke even, or they won enough that, maybe covered what they were paid, but not enough to like be profitable to the business. And
Yeah.
so, my point is, this isn't a unique problem. It just was something that needed to get corrected. And so, how did you kind of take that? How did you, you said with your competitive nature, you didn't want to give up. Where'd you go from there?
So I believe I took a break for a while. I took probably about a month off. But being a card counter, I kind of felt like personally, once I had losing streaks, I couldn't wait to get back to the casino, because it's like, man, I had a losing session, I had some losing hours, just based off EV. I'm gonna start winning again. So I want to get those hours back in so I can start the winning process. So I took a break, probably about a month. I believe I had gotten tested out by David also.
Yep.
So
Loud and often.
he came down and he saw me at my local casino. And that's when he kind of just broke down some things to me as far as the social aspect. The game's not really a winnable game anymore. It has surrender, but cool, so what? At this point, really, they're cutting off 2.5 decks every now and then. So, I kind of need to move on. And that's when he also told me staying at tables for a little bit too long, and, social aspect. So I took that month-long break, practiced a little bit more, and then I was like, okay, I need to change how I'm going to do this if I want to be successful. So that's when I decided, all right, no more social. No more social. When you go to casinos, it's business. Don't answer your phone unless it's an emergency. And I told my girlfriend, or now wife, hey, if you call me 2 times in a row, I'll answer. But because I'll know it's an emergency. But besides that, I'm not answering the phone for anybody. I'm just here. I'm not talking to people. I'm doing what I need to do. And honestly, I felt kind of bad, because a lot of times I just became mean to people. You know what I mean? Just I was really blunt and just really mean to people. But it started working, and I started winning. I'd be sitting down at a table. I have heads up. Things are going well. Somebody comes over, like, hey, you mind if I join you? No, I'm like, oh, sure, come on. Just something funny, like, hey, don't, just make sure I keep winning or something like that. Now people be like, hey, do you mind if I sit down and join you? Be like, nah, I'd rather play by myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just, I really got to that point. I wasn't talking to dealers and stuff. They'd be trying not to strike up a conversation. I'd be like, hey, man, I'm just here to play. You know what I mean? And it was blunt, but I feel like that's what I needed to do to get rid of that social aspect. It's kind of like all or nothing for me. You know what I mean? And then it's like I'd be asking dealers, like once I really got a good dealer, that would be I was playing heads up with and stuff. Then I learned that other thing from you. It's like, hey, do you think you can deal faster for me? You know what I mean? Like I'm here on a mission and I'm asking for what I want. And if a table goes negative or something, I used to be like, all right, guys, well, I think that's my time. It was nice meeting you all, this and that, and pick up my chips. And I have you know what I mean? Do all that before I leave. Once the table went negative, I could be heads up. I pick up my chips and I leave and just go to a new table. I wasn't talking to people. I was just focused on counting cards.
And how did it work? How much more did you lose?
Actually, after David came to test me out, I probably lost another $2,000, and then that's when I started going up and winning.
So did you get back to even where you started?
Yes. So looking at my graph right now, not only did I get back to even, I got back to over where I was in the beginning.
So you got to an all-time high?
Yes, all-time high. Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So I want to. It was kind of a smart-ass comment saying how much more did you lose? But I knew that you won. I knew that you got it all back. But I mean, gosh, we can make a movie out of this. It's got all the elements of a movie, of an origin story. That you had your transformation, and then you faced a new, more difficult challenge, and you overcame it. But I want to step back and say, to me, there's really two things that you brought up there with you trained with Loudon Often or David, and he helped you realize, he was your Yoda or your Obi-Wan Kenobi that said, hey, you he was that Endor or wherever Luke Skywalker goes and he meets Yoda, and Yoda trains him, and you realized, okay, if you really want to do this, you're not going to be a Jedi if you half-ass it. And so anyway, there's two things. I got totally off on a Star Wars tangent there, but the first thing is that you started approaching it like a business, that you realized, and not that you weren't before, but you started to realize the business cost of these mistakes you were making. Whether the mistake is playing poor deck penetration, you realize, oh, there's a business cost to playing poor deck penetration, or the business cost to staying at tables when it goes negative, or the business cost to playing crowded tables, having a bunch of people sitting at your table. Like, okay, if someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, oh, I like the social aspect, that's great, good for you. But be aware of the business costs that, slow tables, poor deck penetration, playing through negative counts. It's not going to take long before you're playing a break even or a losing game. So that's the first is that you go ahead.
I was just saying, to take that even a step further, saying playing bad tables and that kind of stuff. I even will take it a step further and saying playing bad casinos, because casino conditions change. So it's like, okay, if I do if I drive on a whole trip for 2 hours to this one casino, and I get there and now everything's changed, and now there's one table that isn't a CSM, and the deck penetration isn't great, or this and that. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to drive way over here again. I'm just going to sit here and play at this table until I get backed off, because I'm here now. It's like, nah, you can't do that. Every now and then you drive somewhere and it's just not playable.
Yep. And you know what? If people approach card counting or advantage play like a business, it's going to help them make these decisions. In the same way with your other business, if you're spending too much on marketing, or if you're not closing sales calls, or if you're not charging enough for your product, or any number of things, you could be working for free, running your business, making absolutely no money. So you've got to think through, not just like, well, I'm already here, so why don't I keep playing? Think through the business cost of every decision, cover, your bet spread, everything. But the second thing that I heard from you is that you had to kind of go to extreme measures to, as Sassy Red calls it, kill the ploppy. That there were some kind of social, because you're an extrovert, because you're a social person, and probably some of it from your background with gambling, there were some tendencies that it was like, look, if I'm going to do this, I've got to go all the way. I can't, someone says, hey, can I join your table? If you say, oh yeah, come on in, you just know yourself that you might start getting distracted by a side conversation, or be less likely to, I don't know, leave the table if it goes negative, or any number of things that you kind of had to go to extreme measures to kill the ploppy. Is that accurate?
Definitely.
Awesome. And through fixing that, approaching it like a business, killing the ploppy, I mean, the results, the results took care of themselves, which was exciting for us, because it would have been a bummer if the way your story ended is, hey, I, won some money, I lost it back, lost a little more, been grinding, and, I mean, it would have been okay. I care about you, whether you're a card counter or not, but I'm so glad you fixed those things and reached an all-time high.
Definitely. Yeah. It was a good journey, and it was full of highs and lows. There's some exciting times, but yeah, like you said, just being able to conquer that, you know what I mean, and not be able to say like, I failed at this. Yeah.
And to make some money at it along the way. So, where did things go from there? Where are you at with Advantage Play currently?
So my mom, well, the whole coronavirus and stuff. My mom, she was diagnosed with cancer, and I just kind of decided, with the whole coronavirus, it was probably better if I stopped playing. because she's going through chemo and everything, and
Hmm.
she's feeling, or she's susceptible. So I was like,
Yeah.
casinos will always be there. So I took a little bit of time off. I had my first child also,
Hmm.
so with the coronavirus and him, it's good at I get a chance to spend a lot of time with him. He gets a chance to spend time with his grandmother, and then also we had
Yeah.
done some investments with real estate and stuff. So I had used a lot of basically all of my bankroll for those investments. So I was kind of cash poor and didn't have a bankroll at the time either. So all this kind of put it all together, and I just decided to take a little bit of a break. I plan on starting back up in December
Uh-huh.
again. My mom should be done with her last round of chemo at the beginning of December, so the end of December, I'll start playing again.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that your mom's almost done with chemo. I remember my dad going through that, and not an easy thing
Not
for
at
the
all, man.
person going
Not at
through
all.
it, but the whole family. So and so you're you've won back the 6 or 7 thousand you lost, but you're not done with advantage play. It sounds like.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
uh, this is a little bit of a tangent, but how has COVID affected your other business?
Oh man, we've been completely shut down. What's been
Mhm.
about 6 or 7 months now. So we're in California,
Yeah.
and everything out here is still shut down. We can't do any sports. I take some kids, some of our clients that have been around for a while. I take them to some outdoor parks, and we'll have some practices, try to get social
Hmm.
distance and stuff. But as far as the whole program, we haven't had. We got rid of all our camps this year. We haven't had classes, our travel teams, which is really high revenue
Yeah.
for us. We've had to cancel all of our travel teams, so it's been yeah for that it's been rough, rough. But
Man.
luckily, like I said, we had some investments that paid off well, and my wife right before the coronavirus got a new job, and she works in for Grubhub, so that whole food delivery service industry, with they're doing great. So yeah.
Good. Well, hopefully this COVID stuff is not a thing in another 6 months, and your business can recover. I know a lot of people
No.
been kind of just their business on pause.
That's basically where I've been, and it's weird too because I'm watching, looking at the forum. I haven't been too active on it just because, like I said, I've kind of been just doing some other stuff. But in the back of my mind, I'm always like, man, I've had a ton of back offs, some trespasses, and all that kind of stuff. It would be amazing to be able to go into a casino and have a
Yeah.
mask and a pair of reading glasses. Like I feel like I can go back to some of these places now, but the fact that I'm not getting a chance to do it, it's kind of driving me crazy. But like I
Yeah.
said, they'll still be there in the future.
Yeah. Maybe in a couple months when you're back out there, you can give some of those casinos another try with the mask.
Exactly.
So tell us a little bit about how you kind of dealt with casino personnel, and I know it was a while before you even got databased. Any advice or any thoughts on that?
Man, how I deal with casino personnel. That's interesting. I remember I tell Joe 748. I tell we'd always go back and forth. I'd be telling him stories. I'm a very blunt person. Uh, when I say something, I mean it, and I don't really like to repeat myself and stuff a lot of times. So I never showed anybody. It was my main goal. I did not want to be database. I
Hmm.
didn't want them to know my name or anything like that. So I never gave my ID. The only time I'd give my ID, I still look kind of young, would be, if I come in and they're like, "Hey, can I see your ID for just see how old I am?" You know what I mean? I'll give you my ID like that. But anytime I get a back off, a pit boss, something come over, be like, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" Yeah. Can I see your ID? Like, no. They're like, okay. You know what I mean? And it just kind of gets
Yeah.
kind of awkward because I don't really repeat myself. I'm like, no. And they try to give me an excuse. Well, I'd love to see, love for you to play some more, but I just need to see your ID, this and that. I'm like, no, I'm okay, I'm good. And they're like, oh, this and that, going back and forth, so many excuses and so many things. And I never gave my ID. If I go to a what is it called? If I go to the cage and to get my chips, and they're like, "Hey, we need to see some ID." I'm like, "For what?" "Oh, well, this and that, blah blah blah. Don't worry about it. I'll come back and get my chips later." I have somebody else go
Yeah.
cash my chips in at another point. I'll hold on to them for a while, or I'll just go back later at a different shift and cash them out. But I would say to to other people, they're pit bosses. They're human beings. I mean, they don't have an immense amount of authority over you. If they ask for something for you, you are you don't have to give it to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're asking for your ID, even if they try to bully you into things. Well, we're not going to let you do this. We're not going to let you do that. Okay. Like, you know what I
And
mean? Okay.
yeah. So you just dealt with the consequences of never showing ID. And you, in hindsight, do you think that worked?
Yeah, it made me last a long time, I believe. I know my picture was floating around, but they didn't know my name. And another
Yeah.
thing too, every time I go into casinos, I basically like give a new name, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is kind of a game that I played with myself too. So I go to a casino and I come up with like some sort of story of who I was, because somebody always asks something.
Yeah.
But I come up with a name and like of what I did. I try to keep it simple, but that's what it was. But I trained myself to don't respond to that name.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Because a lot of
Yes.
people, a lot of people would come in, or like pit boss, they'd be like, "Hey, such and such." You know what I mean? Like, don't respond.
Yeah.
Never look up. Never look up. It could have been a name you used before, and that's who they think you are. Never look up. It might
Uh-huh.
buy you a little bit more time. So, I dealing with casino personnel for me was kind of fun. The back offs were always interesting. Talking to the people, the trespasses. I've had some pretty nasty trespasses. Those have always been interesting, and the nasty trespasses have always led to, some pit boss that thinks he has more power than he does, and is trying to make me give him my ID, and I'm not having any of it at all. And like, I'm not giving you my ID, and they just lose it, man. And it's like, okay, but after all that's said and done, you still can't have my ID. So, yeah, that's the advice I do tell other people that have reached out to me at times. Be like, hey, don't let them bully you into giving you what they want.
And how do you think did they eventually get your name? Was it from a CTR or?
Man, you want to know how they did not get my name from the CTR? I'll tell you exactly how they got my name. Um, so I was gambling, and I was gambling. I was hitting all these casinos that were owned by the same company.
By gambling,
Uh,
you mean counting cards?
I'm sorry. Yeah, my mistake. My mistake. I was counting cards, and it's been a while. I've been out of it, and that's why I said that. But yes, I was counting cards at a chain of casinos that were all the same company. I had been backed off by multiple of them. One time, they even met me in the parking lot with security, and this is funny. They surrounded my car with like the bikes, so I couldn't get out, and they were like knocking on the window trying to talk to me, and I like wouldn't roll my window down. I'm just sitting there counting money, and the guy's like knocking on my window. I have my spreadsheet up, and I'm like typing in all my stuff, like completely ignoring them. And they were not happy about that at all. So guys like yelling and stuff. I end up just it was kind of a small curb, so I just took my car over the curb and just went and just drove to a new casino. So I'd gone there. Like I said, I never bring my ID out. I don't even pay for food or anything like that if I'm eating in the casino with my card. I was
Uh-huh.
sitting down, I was eating, and I think I had left my bankroll like in my bag in the car or something. Somehow I didn't have cash, so I
Oh no.
pulled out my card to
Uh-huh.
give them to pay for it, and I pulled out my card to pay for it. By the time I had come by and signed my check and everything, they were talking to me by name and were trespassing.
Uh,
Yes. So I'm very, very, very confident that since I paid with my actual credit card with my name on it, that's how they got my name. Because up until that point, nobody knew anything about my name or anything like
yeah.
that.
So
Yeah.
that's good for people to know. If you really want to avoid them knowing your name, just pay with cash. Don't get a hotel room with your ID. Don't pay for food with your ID, anything like that.
And for me, like, I'd always ask for comps. But my main thing was I wasn't giving up my ID. There was two times, believe it or not, it even surprised me, where I got comps without giving up my ID, because I just ask for things. I'm at the table,
Yeah.
hey, I'm hungry, can I get something to eat? and I know the pit boss wants it. Hey, give me your ID and I'll give you something to eat. Nah, I'm good. It's only $10. I'll get it. But I'm asking over and over. New pit boss will come. I'll ask. A new pit boss will come. I'll ask. I'm hungry. Everybody's saying ID. And I think I just wore somebody down one time. They're like, fine, follow me. Walked me over, used his little thing, and got me a comp without giving up my ID. I was pretty proud of that.
That's funny. That's how it was in the old days. They just have a little slip and they'd fill it out and, what's your name? And that's how I remember Ben got some ridiculous comp slips. They would, like Ed Thorpe, the comp would be written to Ed Thorpe, or I think he did Stanford Wong and did like tennis pro, or he just like make up funny names. But now, I mean, those days I was going to say they're long gone, but I guess if you get on, if you ask enough times, maybe you can wear them down. Any final stories or advice you want to leave our listeners with?
Man, I have a ton of stories, but the most, I don't know if I should tell this story. I always feel bad. I don't think I've even told you this story yet, Colin.
Oh no.
No. If you want to edit this one out, we'll have to edit it out. But I'm gonna tell you the story. All right. I was at a casino, and this was around the time when I was really just not playing or trying to get my game better and not play crowded casinos. So I got into the casino, and it was just really crowded. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to play. I'm just going to sit around. I got something to eat. I was really like, hey, just wait for the crowd to die down. So I was going to say, all right, just give it a couple hours. It'll die down, then you can play. Well, while I'm just sitting back, kind of back counting a table, I hear like a really, really, really loud scream, and some lady like falls out of her chair. And not funny or anything like that. She literally is having a heart attack.
Oh no.
Yes, it's an older lady. She's having a heart attack. People are screaming. Like somebody like starts like trying to do CPR on her and all this kind of stuff. The casino medical staff, they came over. They had the defibrillator out. They were doing this. And once again, I'm not a medical expert. I don't know if she was having a heart attack, but she was clutching her chest, kind of like she was having a heart attack. And people are like crowded around. They're trying to push people back, and they pulled in the ambulance and everything, and she ended up passing away at the casino.
Wow. Well, I've heard that at casinos they'll keep, at least this is what I heard about Vegas, they'll keep doing CPR until they get outside of the casino so that the person didn't die, quote unquote, at the casino.
Yeah,
because it's not good for PR.
Yeah, I know, right? And so they definitely put her on the stretcher, but I mean, she was like lifeless, blue, and that kind of stuff, and like you could tell, like, yeah, so it was really bad, and like, so a little bit more to the story. So there was people were crying. There's like it's weird, like they shut down some of these tables, like all the tables that were over there in that section, and not to be mean, you know what I mean, not like, but I was waiting for the casino to not be so crowded to start playing anymore.
Yeah.
So once all that happened, everybody kind of just dispersed. And I kind of looked at the dealer. I was like, is this table open? And she's like, do you really feel like now's the time to play? I was like, yes. And so then I started playing, and that cleared out the casino. It was really, really, really sad, and it was really, really, really interesting. But I was like, man, after all that was said and done, I still played because it was empty now, kind of, and I felt really bad about that.
Well, yeah. How long is an appropriate amount of time to wait before it's like socially okay to?
And that's kind of what I was, and that's when she asked me. She was like, "Hey, do you really feel like playing is okay?" And I'm like, I can't do anything about this situation. You know what I mean? And like you said, how long is an appropriate amount of time? Am I supposed to go home and come back? If I go home, I'm not going to be able to come back.
Oh man.
I mean? Yeah. So it was weird. I felt really, really, really weird about it. But I was there to get table hours in. It was really crowded. I was waiting, and that cleared out the casino basically.
Well, you're heartless, Ballaboy. You're heartless.
Yeah, it was. I think only my wife knows that one.
It's like a lemons lemonade story. Life gives you lemons. I guess you make lemonade.
I know, right? It was it was interesting. And then speaking of stories, my wife's looking at me right now, but um, she doesn't know this yet either. So I got a really bad trespass in Las Vegas, and yeah, it was pretty bad. The trespass in Las Vegas, and her best friend is getting married in Las Vegas coming up soon. And when I saw the hotel of the place she was getting married at, it was that place.
Oh man.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you're gonna wear your mask and your readers and
You know what? I think I am. I'm definitely going to wear my my mask for the coronavirus and join the wedding and hope nothing bad happens. But yeah,
oh man.
when I saw it, I was like, out of all the places
Yeah.
to get married, why would it be at this one?
Yeah, just don't walk in through the table games area. Walk
I
in through
know,
the
right?
hotel or something. Make sure you've got sunglasses and a hat on when you go through where they might have I don't know, any cameras, and you should be fine.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And it was a while ago, so yeah,
But it'll make for a great story if you get you know, escorted off the property during the wedding.
I know, right? I'm not in it or anything. I'll stand in the back just in case.
Yep,
We'll tend in the back. So if I get a little tap or something, I'll be like, well, we're on the outskirts of the wedding right now. So yeah.
that's pretty funny. Any final advice for someone that's maybe where you were when you were early on in your playing days?
Um, Little things matter. The little
Yeah.
things that you don't think matter, they really do matter. Everybody makes mistakes, especially when you're first starting out.
Hmm.
Don't make a mistake and think, that just happened. It doesn't happen very often, or it matters. If you make a mistake, note it, come back, and make sure you don't make that mistake again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When it comes
Hmm.
to deck penetration, little things matter.
Yeah.
When it comes to what is it? Dealing with casino personnel and that kind of stuff. If you don't mind being database, then give them your ID. But do mind being database. Little things matter. Don't give up your ID. Stand your ground. You know what I mean? Don't,
Yep.
tell them no. And if they want to walk you out, that's fine. Um, yeah, I think that would be my biggest thing coming from the position I was in for so long. Uh, it was just focus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're there. What worked for me, I think, the most was treating it like a business versus like, all right, I'm just going out to the casino. I'm going to count cards, um, and I'm going to go home. It's like, no, I'm out here. I want to get a certain amount of hours. I want to get a certain amount of good hours at tables, and I'm working right now. This isn't fun. This isn't games or anything like that. I'm really focused and trying to work. Um, I think those would be kind of my biggest things.
That's
And then
good.
also another thing that worked really well for me too was once I really got serious, I started noticing more about dealers and dealer errors. Dealer errors were big for me, especially when I started winning, and I feel like I do a good job of that right now. Um, I not to be too mean or anything like that, but if I see it's a new dealer, I take full
Yep.
advantage of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, when you were talking about little things matter and how they add up, there's actually a part of one of the boot camp talks that I give where I've added a couple slides that I basically do a comparison. I call it Joe 747 versus Joe 748, and
Uh-huh.
Joe 748. That's over $1 million card counter. For those, you can listen to his podcasts. Joe 747 is someone that's not paying attention to those little details. And so I kind of do this comparison of, what if the deck penetration is a little worse than you want to admit to it? And what if you're playing a little bit slower tables? What if you're not spreading your bet as big? You're playing a little bit more negative counts, and, or the rules are maybe a little bit worse than you thought they were going to be. And just in this kind of visual graph, you can see this incredible difference in EV for these
Yeah.
two people. And they both, the thing that what people don't realize, they both are playing perfect basic strategy, perfect counting, perfect true count conversion, perfect deviations, um, you know, perfect betting, other than maybe not being as aggressive. So I think it's just a kind of a visual. I'll send you a slide when we get off this, so you can see, exactly what you're saying. These little details matter. And so one final bit of advice I'll give people is when you can play perfectly before you start playing in a casino, spend time with betting software. Spend time, put in a bet spread, and then say, well, what if the deck penetration is a quarter deck worse or a half deck worse? What does that do to your EV and your risk? What if, instead of playing 100 rounds per hour, it's a full table and I'm playing 50 rounds per hour? What does that do to your EV and to your risk? What if the rules are a little bit worse? And what if your bet spread, is a little bit less aggressive, or you play through negative counts? What do any of those variables do to your EV? And, you'll learn a lot from that in how every one of these details matters, just like you said. So there's my pro tip for anybody listening is really take the time to get familiar with betting software and see how all these variables affect your EV and your risk and your long run.
Definitely. Couldn't have been said better.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time to share your story, and, wish the best for your mom. Wish the best for, the rest of the time that California is in lockdown, and that this COVID stuff comes to an end quickly, and you can get your business and your advantage play careers back in action. But thanks for sharing your story with us.
Definitely, man. And thanks for having me. And like I said, come December, for everybody on the forum and everything, I'll try to be more active and talking to people and that kind of stuff more. Just right now, I've kind of been out of it because I just haven't been playing for a while now.
Yep. It's understandable. Awesome. Well, I'll see you on the forum, and everybody else, if you want to learn more about card counting, check out Blackjack Apprenticeship. Talk to you guys later. That's it for you guys. If you want to learn more about how to master card counting, network with other advantage players, get access to all sorts of software to help you take casinos money, that's what we have at Blackjack Apprenticeship. In our membership, there's videos, there's training software, there's a forum that is active with lots of both pro and part-time advantage players. We've got a casino database, we've got betting software and all sorts of stuff. You can check that out at blackjackapprenticeship.com.